Never give nor take an excuse. Ignite the mind's spark to rise the sun in you. There is no part of my life upon which I can look back without pain. A human being does not cease to exist at death. It is change, not destruction, which takes place. Mankind must make heaven before we can go to heaven, as the phrase is, in this world as in any other. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. Remember my name, you'll be screaming it later. 100 struggle and drown in the breakers. One discovers the new world, rather, 10 times, die in the surf heralding the way to a new world, than stand idly on the shore. So, never lose an opportunity of urging a practical beginning, however small, for it is wonderful how often in such matters the mustard seed germinates and roots itself. You ask me why I do not write something. I think one's feelings waste themselves in words. They ought all to be distilled into actions and into actions which bring results. I am of certain convinced that the greatest heroes are those who do their duty in the daily grind of domestic affairs whilst the world whirls as a maddening dreidel. How very little can be done under the spirit of fear. The world is put back by the death of everyone who has to sacrifice the development of his or her peculiar gifts to conventionality. A nurse is to maintain the air within the room as fresh as the air without lowering the temperature. Every nurse ought to be careful to wash her hands very frequently during the day. If her face, too, so much the better. For it may safely be said, not that the habit of ready and correct observation will by itself make us useful nurses, but that without it we shall be useless with all our devotion. For us who nurse, our nursing is a thing which, unless in it we are making progress every year, every month, every week, take my word for it, we are going back. The more experience we gain, the more progress we can make. No man, not even a doctor, ever gives any other definition of what a nurse should be than this: devoted and obedient. This definition would do just as well for a porter. It might even do for a horse. It would not do for a policeman. For the sick, it is important to have the best. Unnecessary noise is the most cruel absence of care that can be inflicted on the sick or the well. To attempt to keep a ward warm at the expense of making the sick repeatedly breathe their own hot, humid, putrescine atmosphere is a certain way to delay recovery or to destroy life. The very first requirement in a hospital is that it should do the sick no harm. Badly constructed houses do for the healthy what badly constructed hospitals do for the sick. Once ensure that the air is stagnant, and sickness is certain to follow. Apprehension, uncertainty, waiting, expectation, fear of surprise, do a patient more harm than any exertion. Remember, he is face to face with his enemy all the time. If a patient is cold, if a patient is feverish, if a patient is faint, if he is sick after taking food, if he has a bed sore, it is generally the fault not of the disease, but of the nursing. The amount of relief and comfort experienced by the sick after the skin has been carefully washed and dried is one of the commonest observations made at a sick bed. It is the unqualified result of all my experience with the sick that, second only to their need of fresh air, is their need of light, that, after a close room, what hurts them most is a dark room, and that it is not only light but direct sunlight they want. The best nurses have the essential qualifications before they go to school. To understand God's thoughts, one must study statistics, for these are the measure of His purpose. The most important practical lesson that can be given to nurses is to teach them what to observe, how to observe, what symptoms indicate improvement, what the reverse, which are of importance, which are of none, which are the evidence of neglect, and of what kind of neglect. Let us never consider ourselves finished nurses, we must be learning all of our lives. In it and in the other prayers of the mystics there is scarcely a petition. There is never a word of the theory that God's dealings with us are to show His power, still less of the theory. Let each person tell the truth from his own experience. Everything is sketchy. The world does nothing but sketch. Patriotism is not enough. There must be no hatred or bitterness for anyone. Never dispute with anybody who wishes to contradict you, says a most reasonable saint. I must strive to see only God in my friends, and God in my cats. To be a fellow worker with God is the highest aspiration of which we can conceive man capable,